Welcome. It's time to get started, and as you can tell, everyone's been muted. If you have questions during the meeting, please use the chat function down below. I also want to remind you there will be a drawing at the end of the meeting, one for a $75 gift card from KeyBank and another for $25 from Hill Mortgage. However, you must register today at gpbr.com/win no later than 9:30 to be included in the drawings. I would now like to introduce your 2021 GPBR President, Alexis DeLuca.
Thank you, Bob. And welcome all to our first general membership meeting of 2021. Before we get started with today's meeting program, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, here we are, nearly a year after the initial stay-at-home order, still meeting remotely. We truly look forward to getting back together in person when the time is right. In the meantime, we are grateful for your virtual engagement and participation and pledge to do our absolute best to maximize opportunities in a remote setting. I would like to provide a general timeline of in-person versus virtual events in 2021. While there may be some in-person events here or there, like the Macomb chapter's monthly morning pop-in mixer, we are currently planning to hold all programs and activities virtually through the first half of the year. We are hopeful that beginning in July, we will be able to shift back to an in-person or hybrid format. On that note, I would like to recognize Vice President Jim Addison for his hard work and dedication in steering us through the shift to virtual everything as our 2020 president last year. Under Jim's guidance, the board explored and implemented a variety of new channels to keep in touch with you, our valued members. We have opened 2021 with confidence in our ability to continue down that path for as long as needed. On the topic of confidence in our board, I'm pleased to share with you that just days after our own extended leadership team orientation workshop, I, along with several members of our leadership team and our management team, attended the Michigan Realtors Achieve Conference last month. I was proud to observe that GPBR remains ahead of the curve in terms of leadership training, future planning, and a strong commitment to fair housing and diversity. We will hear from Marcia Zeller, our 2021 Fair Housing and Diversity Committee Chair, this morning on this important subject. At this time, I would like to recognize our 2021 corporate partners who so generously support our annual programs and events. Their company logos are displayed on the screen. On behalf of the entire GPBR membership, I thank you for your continued support and participation this year. Additionally, I would like to recognize today's event sponsors. Primary sponsor KeyBank, represented by Colleen Barra, Chandra Fowler, and Dawn Lesigno. Cutco Closing Gifts, represented by Luke Sasek. Hill Mortgage, represented by Laura Peters. And now I would like to introduce Colleen, Chandra, and Dawn from KeyBank, who are here to provide an update on the mortgage lending industry. Please unmute your microphones and take it away.
Hey, thanks very much, Bob, and thanks very much, Alexis. And I believe, Allison, we have a couple slides that Chandra and I are going to share. So good morning, everyone. And once again, thanks for the time. Real privilege to be able to have just a few minutes to speak to all of you this morning, truly on the outlook of 2021. And as all of you probably experienced, last year not only was a record year for many people in the real estate industry and the mortgage industry, very unprecedented. I think we had a lot of great learnings in terms of how to adapt in how we do business. So with that, I think Chandra and I will spend most of our time on a go forward outlook. And so Allison, if you could advance the slide. So 2021 forecast for the mortgage industry, and I think this is one thing that all of us should feel good about and optimistic about. And this is the MBA forecast in that we are expected to have a record year for purchase mortgage originations. And so last year, an outstanding year, but if you look over on the left-hand side, full year mortgage originations are forecasted to top over 2.7 trillion. And kind of to give you a reference point on that, that's actually 20% higher than what the industry was back in 2019. So not expected to be as large as it was last year in 2020, but I think, and we're already seeing this in the early part of the year, a lot of demand in terms of purchase, and also still a lot of demand as rates are starting to rise a little bit. People who didn't take advantage of refinancing yet are now getting off the fence and making certain they're securing a rate in the 2s and 3s. And so average 30-year fixed mortgage rates are expected to remain in the low to mid 3s throughout 2021. And I think to all of you as real estate professionals, and some of you who are industry veterans, we're calling double-digit interest rates. Even though rates are expected to rise a little bit, do know that, in terms of affordability and buying power, still plans to be relatively stable there. And then finally, I think in a really optimistic way, existing home sales year over year are expected to forecasted to increase about 10%. And so if you can advance to the next slide. So what are some of the potential headwinds and issues facing the housing and mortgage industry in this upcoming year? And so I think some of these things are just almost a continuance of what we saw in 2020. First, and everyone on this call, all the real estate professionals, I probably are very close to this, housing inventory. And we're seeing this obviously locally in the Midwest, but we're also seeing it KeyBank as a national bank. We're seeing it on the West Coast, we're seeing it on the East Coast, that the demand for homes is clearly outpacing supply of available homes. I was talking to a colleague in Denver, Colorado yesterday, and they had a client that actually looked at a house that had 80 offers on it within one day. And so I know we're feeling that here in the Midwest, but we're also seeing it as a bank on the West Coast and the East Coast, and that's expected to continue. Gradually rising interest rates potentially impacting mortgage affordability. I think that's one thing that's really important to the real estate professionals on this meeting, that make certain that your borrowers are getting and home buyers are getting pre-qualified and understand the level of interest rate that they're getting qualified at. If rates do in fact rise 1/4%, 0.5%, 0.75% throughout the year, that can impact their buying power. And so for borrowers and buyers to really understand what that impact would be if they were to buy now versus potentially at the end of the year, if the MBA forecast holds true, that rates are slightly higher, could change buying power, 25,000, 50,000, or 75,000. And then finally, the last 2 points here, labor market uncertainties, although the labor market has had improvement over the last several months, people becoming more confident in their jobs and job stability. Also, unemployment or employment is not back to the levels of what it was pre-COVID. And so, of course, housing being one of the biggest expenses that people have in their lives, some people may hold off if there isn't certainty in their job. And then finally, obviously, a new administration in the month of January coming in, there could be legislation impacting home financing or the housing industry. I know all of you, and Bob particularly as a leader, are paying close attention to some of the things that may cause a change in the way that we do business, or policies that may influence home financing or also the housing industry. So with that, we're going to close with, I'll turn it over to Chandra Fowler, who will take you through some of the things just to consider this year when we think about, and if we advance the slide here, just the mortgage industry and some of the things here at Key that we're doing to really help buyers. So Chandra, I'll turn it to you.
Thanks, Colleen. Good morning, everyone. So as she mentioned, some changes and considerations going into 2021 is going to be, there is a new uniform loan application that's starting March 21st, that all origination loans are going to be used. The idea behind this is to help lenders capture relevant loan information and to support the industry move to a more digital loan process, which I think will be helpful. We're also expected to see more need for lenders who offer jumbo portfolio financing and asset-based lending. 2020 took some lenders by surprise, which took their product mix away due to tightening up. KeyBank learned a lot in 2020 as well in regards to the markets that we serve. Making sure that we had a local appraisal panel was very important, those that know your market well. And then we made sure to invest in products that help clients. So we have all of the standard loan products as every lender out there is FHA, VA, conforming, home ready. And then we have a lot of niche portfolio products to serve the communities that you serve. Key Community, which is 100% financing, no PMI, the doctor dentist program that is currently at 95% due to COVID. We're expecting that to be lifted back to 100% in the next couple months. And then we have the jumbo that's up to 3.5 million. So the product demand is still out there, and it's just making sure that the lenders are addressing those needs. For self-employed borrowers, they were put through a little bit more in 2020 due to COVID. There was a lot of more documentation that they had to supply, such as updated P&Ls, bank statements, and we're expecting to see the same for 2021. I think having a upfront conversation with the client, letting them know that that's going to be expected, I think that's kind of helped the transition, and everything has been fine with that. Another thing that we're looking at is KeyBank started to look to serve the client as a whole. So we don't want to be a transactional bank. We don't want to close the mortgage and then the relationship stalls out. So we put in place something new, which we are discounting the rate by a quarter if the client wants to establish basic accounts with us. Obviously, if the client is happy with their bank and they're not interested, then we still pass on the standard pricing out there. They just don't get the extra quarter off. But I think that's something else that is important as we look right now with the mortgage industry being so hot. It's not really just about closing the loan. It's about making sure the client's taken care of. And then the last three I'll group together. So 2020, as probably every lender, we did a lot of refis. We did a lot of cash out refis to help lower rate, debt consolidation. We also help clients looking for payment help. And then we also seen a demand for second homes. So I personally did many second lake homes here in Michigan. We did a lot of homes in Florida, Texas, North Carolina, Arizona, you name it, homes were being sold. So there is definitely a demand for that. And then last but not least, we've seen an increase in home improvement needs. So we have a really cool product mix since we're a bank, and we have the equity product. So it's been great to work with realtors to kind of address needs up front. So if a client is looking to maybe potentially sell a house in the future and they know that maybe, they should upgrade the kitchen or the bath and, do those things prior to get ahead of, the market and to make the home more attractive, it will help them sell the home for top dollar. So we put a home equity loan in place and then help them fund that. And then also we have, we've seen a lot of people putting equity line in places knowing that they're going to need help to bridge a potential future move, and they need help with down payment. So that was great. We did a lot of those, like I mentioned. And then we've seen an uptick in, we have a couple specialty loan programs too, which is like a loan pool program. So basically we financed in-ground pools. So we did a lot of those probably because of COVID and people wanting to be stuck at home. And then we also have a really good energy efficient program for people that need to upgrade the home, such as windows and furnace and doors and all that great stuff. We don't have to have equity. So it's just a nice added bonus to that. And then you can go to the next slide. And with that, I just wanted to let you know that we are here to serve you guys. We are here to serve the clients that you serve. We have a lot of great things that we can do to help them. And we are local and we're here to help. And with that, I'll say thank you.
Thank you, Chandra, Colleen, and Dawn. The KeyBank team always has great information for our members. Now, I would like to have everyone pay close attention to Marshall Zeller, one of your Harper Woods Grosse Pointe Regents, and this year's chair of the GPBR Fair Housing and Diversity Committee.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marcia Zeller, and I am chairing the Fair Housing Committee this year. Welcome to 2021. So back in November of 2020, just a couple months ago, the National Association of Realtors issued, for the first time, a formal, full-on apology for our industry's racist practices of the past. It did gain quite a bit of press, also sparked a fair amount of backlash within the membership. You may have seen it. So as I read deeper into the details around this apology, it started making sense that a lot of the backlash was coming from people not understanding the full extent of our history. And I'm going to include myself in that group. Not that I was sparking backlash, but this whole article exposed certain details that I was admittedly unaware of. And so in the spirit of that, it seemed like something worthy of a share. The apology accounts for NAR's supportive policies such as redlining, steering, and especially the encouragement of racial covenants. I am going to play the video so you can hear the president of NAR's verbal apology or a segment of it. But before I do that, I do want to pull out two specific noteworthy historic details from this article that will help put this apology into context. Number one, straight from the article. Discriminatory practices weren't just tolerated for many years, they were baked into the our association's guiding principles for much of the 20th century. And the best example is this passage added to the Code of Ethics in 1924. Here we go. Added in 1924. Realtors should never be instrumental in introducing into a neighborhood members of any race or nationality or any individuals whose presence will clearly be detrimental to property values in that neighborhood. That was in there from 1924 to 1974. Number two, when President Lyndon Johnson signed the Fair Housing Act in 1968. Oh, and by the way, don't forget when he signed this, this was just 2 weeks after Martin Luther King was assassinated. So anyway, when he passed this, the Association of Realtors actively fought against it. So we went down on the wrong side of history with that one in 1968. And furthermore, the association did not strike that discrimination clause I just read from its Code of Ethics until 6 years later, until 1974. Okay, let's take a look at this apology. It's about 90 seconds.
Hello, I'm Charlie Oppler, 2021 President of the National Association of Realtors. Because of our past mistakes, the real estate industry has a special role to play in this fight for fair housing. The tragic death of George Floyd and the national conversation on race that resulted has shifted the landscape for many Americans. In our industry, this shift brought a consensus that change starts with us. We must remember this history if we hope to repair today's racially divided communities and build a better future. Let me be clear. What realtors did was an outrage to our morals and our ideals. It was a betrayal of our commitment to fairness and equality. I'm here today as the president of the National Association of Realtors to say we were wrong. But we can't go back and fix our mistakes of the past, but we can look this problem squarely in the eye. And we can finally say on behalf of our industry that what realtors did was shameful and that we're sorry. I realize words are not enough. Actions are always louder than words. We must take positive action to remedy decades worth of inequality.
We do have a lot of work in order to make up for those decades of inequality. And making sure we fully understand our history so that we can fully own our history, it seems to be a necessary part of turning the page. And our story is this, our history is this. I'm just going to recap all these summaries of these articles. Realtors were the ones who openly supported the use of racial covenants. We started them. After a Supreme Court decision signaled that this might be a legal way to restrict who lives in certain communities, the National Association of Realtors started encouraging the development of these covenants at a board level. It was very official, very widespread, not random. This is how our industry developed. This was systemic. And soon thereafter, the federal government, with our industry support, got the green light to begin to redline and again, systemically segregated America's communities. That's our history in a nutshell. And now I just want to read straight up quote from Brian Greene in these articles. He is the guy, he has a different title now, but he basically handles all of the fair housing dealings on the National Association of Realtors Board. This is what he says in this article. So it may be hard for some people today to look back and fully appreciate that discrimination in the past was not just random acts of discrimination or bad agents here, bad agents there. It was how we organized communities with government support. The industry, the government, and individuals, the whole system, all agreeing this is how we should live. He goes on to say, the apologies for all of it. It's a recognition that we created a segregated society along with the government. And that we're now doing all the things we can to make sure that the housing industry works for the benefit of everybody. So today, we invite you to join us in owning our history. Even if today was the first time you really heard these details. Let's own our history and continue to work to change the story. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Marcia. Very powerful message. As much as I like to consider myself enlightened, I learned some things today as well. And I also want to thank our Fair Housing and Diversity Committee for putting this together. Now, I ask that you pay attention to the following videos as we announce the recipients of our 2020 Realtor Volunteer of the Year, our 2020 Affiliate Volunteer of the Year, and our 2020 Community Service Award recipient.
In 2017, the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors established the Volunteer of the Year Awards. This is designed to recognize the outstanding participation of and positive impact left by GPBR Realtor and Realtor Affiliate members as it relates to their valuable time and efforts spent throughout the year serving our membership through association efforts. The recipients are recognized for their various contributions by serving on our committees and at our events, classes, and meetings. Nominees have been evaluated and a recipient is selected based on their committee involvement, initiative, task completion, attendance, communication, and congeniality.
Unlike the Realtor of the Year and the Realtor Active in Politics Award, for which nominations are accepted from any and all active GPBR members, nominations for the Volunteer of the Year Award are accepted only from the GPBR Board of Directors, Chapter Board of Regents, committee chairs, active committee members, and association staff. This limitation stems from our belief that those who have been actively engaged as volunteers throughout the year are best equipped to recommend a volunteer of the year, either themselves, a colleague, or any other member that they see fit for this award.
In 2016, the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors established the Community Service Award in an effort to recognize those in our membership who elevated the Realtor brand by showing up and being present in the community. Although the recipient may be a Realtor, affiliate, public service affiliate, or corporate partner member, all help to make the Realtor brand shine when out in the community. Past recipients have been active in local community organizations, fundraisers, and have been known to many people outside our membership for their good works. And this year is no exception.
This year, I am humbled to present the 2020 Volunteer of the Year Realtor Award to a very deserving member. This individual has served as the chair of the Community Outreach Committee, spearheading the committee's Samaritas COVID collection last spring, the Guardian Angel Medical Service Dog fundraiser this fall, and as well as the end of the year Poop Happens campaign. Known for her kind and friendly personality, her compassionate heart, and her generous spirit, I am proud to announce this year's recipient of the Volunteer of the Year Realtor Award is Suzanne Gall.
I am honored to present the 2020 Affiliate Volunteer of the Year Award. This year's award winner has been an active and present member at GPBR meetings and events, while actively serving on both the community service and affiliate committees. He helped promote, develop, and present on the Red Wine and Regulations Affiliate Update and virtual networking throughout the year. He always has a smile and a kind word for all. I am honored to announce this year's award recipient for Affiliate Volunteer of the Year to Peter Turco.
I am humbled and honored to present this year's Community Service Award to a very deserving individual. This individual's activities are too numerous to list, but to give you a small sampling, the member has been active in the Grosse Pointe Rotary, helping to raise funds for the new Grosse Pointe Tot Lot, sitting on the boards of the Grosse Pointe Library Foundation, the Grosse Pointe Chamber of Commerce, the Grosse Pointe Board of Review, an ambassador for the Family Center, and the biggest supporter with the Grosse Pointe Woods City Council when Mary Rogers and I were starting the Avenue in the Woods Association. It was a rare community event he did not attend. I am proud to present posthumously the Community Service Award to George R. McMullen Jr. Grosse Pointe will miss this true community service leader. Thank you, George, for all your service.
Okay, before we get to our next segment, I need to remind everyone to enter our two drawings today. At the end of the meeting, you have to go to gpbr.com/win. We will be providing one winner with a $75 gift card and the other a $25 gift card. So go ahead and register. Needs to be done by 9:30 and it's close. So please get those registrations in. Now, please pay attention to Luke Sasek, who will talk about how to make a client for life.
Good morning, Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors. It's me again, the knife guy. I'm here to talk to you today, as always, not actually about knives. I'm actually here more from an educational perspective on how you can stay top of mind with every single client that you work with and why that's so important in your business, whether you're in real estate or mortgages. And the reason I say that is because if your clients can't remember you, then they can't use you again or refer you business, right? And I know in real estate and in lending, repeat business and referrals are really the name of the game if you want to be successful over the long run. And so every good realtor, every good loan officer knows that the end of the transaction shouldn't be the end of a relationship you have with the client. In fact, it should be the beginning of a lifetime of consistently adding value and pouring back into that relationship, because that's how you earn repeat and referral business over time. And at the end of the transaction, there's an opportunity to really brand yourself that goes by the wayside for most agents. And of course, that opportunity that I'm talking about is your closing gift. So the challenge with most of those gifts is that 90% of them are consumed right away. So your client loves them, but then they eat them, drink them, spend them, and you spend all that money and there's nothing left to show for it afterwards. The other 10% of gifts that don't get consumed right away, they're usually not all that useful. So they just kind of sit there and collect dust. So our solution is that we brand you forever. And what do I mean by forever? If you're a Cutco owner, if you've purchased a set or used this as gifts before, I want you to show me some love. You can use the reactions on Zoom. You can wave your hands in the air like you just don't care. You can type in something in the chat box. If you're not familiar, we've been around since the 40s, super high quality. We take your information, we engrave it on the product. And what that does is it keeps you top of mind forever. So the National Association of Realtors says that 83% of clients, when surveyed after the transaction, said they would use their same agent again. Only 11% actually list with the same agent who helped them buy the home in the first place. So the challenge isn't necessarily doing a good job, it's staying top of mind and staying in the forefront of your client's mind when it comes to who their trusted advisor is in real estate or lending. And so what we do is we take your information, we engrave it on the blade. It also makes it 100% legally tax deductible. And how many of you have used a knife in your kitchen or a pair of scissors in the last 7 days, right? So that's why this makes sense. The gifts range between $90 to $250. We can send you a year supply, bill you over 6 months, and you still get everything up front. So it works super easy for your cash flow. What I'm going to do is put my information in the chat box, my cell phone. And if you have closings coming up that you need gifts for, just shoot me a text message. And I'm actually going to offer the first 5 agents to place an order from this meeting $100 in free Cutco. So reach out to me right away and I'll follow up with you after the meeting and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.
Thank you, Luke. There's an old saying in our business, people don't forget about you, they think you forgot about them. Thank you for sharing how our members can stay top of mind. Next, it is my privilege to introduce Michael Stutskoff. I have known Michael for more years than I think he and I want to admit. He is the CEO of the Home Builders Association of Southeast Michigan, which you may recognize as being the force behind the home shows held at the Suburban Collection Showplace in Novi. His group covers Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and St. Clair counties, just like we do. He has been recognized nationally as a servant leader within his industry. He is here to talk to you today about what is happening within the home building industry and how a new home may be your buyer's answer to low inventory. If you have any questions for Michael, please post them in the chat. Michael, it's good to see you. The floor is yours.
Morning, Bob. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going on my 13th year, so I guess we've known each other that long for sure. I was just thinking back, the last time I had the privilege to speak to the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors, I think was in 2018, and that ended up being our best year since 2006. So hopefully we'll have that same kind of feel that goes forward with this one and the same kind of luck. So where I wanted to start, and you see the chart up on the screen here, and it's a very busy chart. If you saw this presentation 2 years ago, you saw a similar chart, only it had 2 years less date on it. So there's probably a little bit of explanation that goes with this. We're going to cover 3 different areas of the chart. There's 3 major graphs there. So and the way I plan to talk about this very briefly in going forward in 2021 and everything that Colleen and Chandra had to say earlier with Key Bank. And again, thank you to the sponsors for today's program. I agree with. So I won't highlight those as much as I will add to what they had to say regarding the, sort of look ahead. But from a new home building perspective, I think it's also important to look at 2020 a little bit to provide context of where it is I think we could go. So the first chart, and I'm sitting here pointing at my screen. If we were live in person, I could point to it a little bit easier. But I call it the heart rate monitor chart. So it's the line chart that's in the upper right-hand corner, the month-to-month permits, and there's a blue line and a red line. Blue line is a forecast. We do a mathematical forecast each month. I happen to have developed that. I pray a lot, so that helps. And we use the data that's on what I call the bingo chart, which is on the left-hand side there. It's got the employed workforce, North American vehicle production, et cetera. It's got red, yellow, and green boxes to it. So we'll talk about that second. And then third, the summary chart of the trailing 12-month permits in blue and orange. So starting with the month-to-month permits, the heart rate monitor chart, you'll see in 2020, and again, hopefully you can expand it on your screen. You can see maybe a little bit closer, but January and February last year were on pace to be the best year since 2006. We're knocking it out of the park with new home construction. A lot of that was driven even a year ago by the lack of existing home inventory. And so that really does drive historically. If there's lack of existing homes, of course, you need to build new homes. And so that was going on. And then, of course, COVID hit. We were one of 5 states in the country that shut down all residential construction, as you all are aware as well, because real estate sales were also impacted for a period of time between mid-March and mid-May. All of new home construction and remodeling was shut down. And so we took a huge dip. It went down to just about zero. Now you'd say, Mike, you knew that was coming because your blue line went down to nearly zero. Well, I did not know it was coming. But in the midst of the shutdown, I redid our model to try to model what I expected to happen. And then I had to wait a month, 2 months to see when things reopen and we start getting renewed permit data from the townships where we went to. And it turned out that the mathematical model, with some adjustments that I had to put in based on national economists' predictions, turned out to be pretty darn close. April, I think we only had a total of somewhere around 50 permits total issued across the 4-county area. But we rebounded pretty quickly. In this case, for housing, it was a V-shaped recovery. As I've said, and I believe this is still going to hold true in 2021 and maybe moving forward for some period of time, is, up until COVID hit, people ate, drank, slept, watched TV in their house. Since March of 2020, they've had to quote unquote live in their house. Not only doing all of those previous things, but now they're also conducting school while also conducting business, determining that paint cans in the basement are not a good Zoom backdrop. So then we get all the virtual backdrops, and then you move back, you disappear, things of that nature. And people realizing that, you know what, we probably need a bigger house, or we need to make some changes up in here. And so remodeling was also a very big effort in 2020, had a great rebound. A lot of remodelers had their best years. And so that's sort of painting the picture moving forward into 2021. So now I want to shift over to the bingo chart on the left-hand side. These are some of the key metrics that we look at. These are some of the data points that if you want to sort of keep track of this and wonder, okay, I heard Mike speak back in February, but now it's June or July. How are things going? Well, maybe these are some of the things you want to look at. The number of people employed in Southeastern Michigan, and that's probably the most, unemployment rate everybody talks about, and that's important, of course. But the number of people employed, if you don't have a job, you're not going to be able to qualify to buy a house. Go to Key Bank, they're going to tell you that, right? So, so right now, with 1.8 million people employed, we're down from a year ago just about 5%. That's good and bad. The bad part of that is that we're down by that number of people. We were over 1.9 million people employed, nearing 2 million people employed, again, getting back to those early 2000 numbers. The good news, if there's any with that, and again, I don't wish anybody to be unemployed, but what remains in that number is highly weighted to the service industry, which is still being impacted primarily by the state health department epidemic orders. And so that segment is less likely to be the ones buying a new home, and also probably less likely to be buying even an existing home because of what their income is. I mean, that's part and parcel of being in the service industry. So that's not necessarily creating a headwind, as it were, but it is an overall indicator at the health of the economy, and how long that goes on impacting service businesses and how many of those businesses are able to remain as going concerns, then becomes a concern, pun intended, going forward for the broader economy. The workforce is very healthy. Actually, the number of people in the workforce is nearly 1% higher than it was this time last year. And again, this time last year, we didn't have COVID. Obviously, COVID was on the planet, but COVID wasn't really the big thing here. So that's a very healthy workforce number. North American vehicle production as well is up by 2% over where it was last year at this time. So it's getting off to a faster start. And in fact, North American vehicle production has just about returned, not on a 12-month basis, because you had this big drop off when production sort of stopped again in the springtime for vehicles. But since it has started back up, there's been renewed purchases and stuff, and that vehicle production is back to the averages that we saw prior to COVID. Crude oil prices, at least where they were for December, are down significantly over where they were a year ago, and that's great. However, it's going to be, and that's one of the first things that I'll say moving forward into 2021. We've had a change of administration. We've had a change in Congress. Now, both houses of Congress are effectively controlled by the Democratic Party. Not a political statement here, but if you look at the platform of the Democratic Party and what they ran on, part of that platform looks to take $3 trillion in additional taxes out of the economy. Out of a $22 trillion economy, you take $3 trillion out. That's a significant number. You can say, okay, those are going to be corporate taxes, et cetera, but we all know corporate taxes get passed down to individuals. It's just the way our economy works. So you take $3 trillion of buying power out of the economy, that's going to have a potential impact. How quickly all of that gets implemented, if any of it gets implemented, remains to be seen. But the second part is crude oil. There's fundamental differences between how the previous administration looked at fracking, et cetera, American production, and how, the Obama administration, and now, I just about call it the Obama administration version 2 with President Biden. And so if that goes again to more reliance on foreign oil, those oil prices could go up. We've already seen gas prices now are averaging $2.45 to $2.65 in the metro area, and supposed to go up again. Again, that takes away discretionary income, and again affects just like interest rates affect, et cetera. But then the biggest thing that affects buying power is the average price of both existing single-family homes, as reported by RealComp, and then the average new single-family home permit value. And when you see those jumping by 14% on the existing and close to 35% on the new home, that affects affordability as well. So let me actually go to our next chart. One of the biggest impacts that's going on in the new home construction market is lumber pricing. This here is a chart that shows lumber pricing. Actually, it's time sequence going back to 2016. But you see in 2020, there was a huge variation. Pricing for softwood lumber reached its highest point ever at $920 per 1,000 board feet in September of 2020. Came down, but then in November and early December actually rose again. If you looked at the current numbers, it's actually up above $800 per 1,000 board feet. And so according to the National Association of Home Builders, based on the data back in September for the average new home, lumber prices themselves increased the cost of a home by $16,000. Here in southeastern Michigan, that would take nearly 30,000 households out of qualifying for that house just based on that price increase. I was on a panel or on a discussion yesterday, and several home builders mentioned that they are raising prices on new homes, sometimes as frequently as twice in the same week, prices are going up. So I guess what I would end with in 2021, the variability on what people will be able to afford to purchase as far as their income and those items are concerned is concern number one. But number two is looking at exactly what happens on the cost side of new homes. So I would encourage you, Bob and I share this vision of working with builders. I know a lot of our builders work with realtors, work very well with realtors. I know that's not always the case. So I would encourage that as well. The last thing I'd say is what we're seeing in the market for new homes is actually move-up buyers is the largest cohort of that, and then first-time home buyers. Active adult sort of comes and goes based on the weather because a lot of the active adult go to Florida or Barbados like yourself. So they go other places and then they come back. So that's more of a seasonal effect. So with that, hopefully there's time for a couple questions, and I'll turn it back over to you, Bob.
Thank you, Michael. Allison, do we have any questions?
We do. The first question comes from Kelly Dix, who serves on our Macomb County Chapter Board of Regents. Kelly is asking, are there still delays due to being able to get supplies to build homes?
Yes, Kelly, that's a great question. A lot of what happened with the lumber prices really shows, this goes back to freshman year of college and supply chain management and also economics 101. And so that affected everywhere because everything that goes into a new home or even into a remodeling project has to be manufactured, whether it's cutting down a tree, getting it to mill, milling it, delivering it. Harvesters were shut down because of COVID. The mills were shut down. Railroads were affected. Cross-border, a lot of our lumber and stuff comes from Canada or comes from overseas. And all of that was affected as well. And then manufacturing of additional products like cabinets, appliances, et cetera, all of that was impacted for a period of time. And I think in 2021, there'll be a lesser extent as vaccines are rolled out. A lot of manufacturing has resumed, but again, if a mill is only working on 2 shifts instead of 3 shifts, you're still at 2/3 capacity, right? So it's those type of things that will remain to be seen, but I think we're getting more of a handle on that production. So that should lessen in 2021, and by 2022 should be okay.
Thank you, Michael. We have another question from Cindy Werbrook of Blessed Assurance Home Inspection. You did cover the cost of lumber. She's wondering what can be done about the costs that are being passed along to the client, and how can agents best advise their clients when they're in this market?
Yeah, so I guess it's it's probably too generalized, but I'll characterize new home buyers in 2 segments. One is either in the semi-custom or custom home, where you're going to go in, you're going to sign the contract after you come to agreement on what the house is going to look like, how much it's sort of going to cost and whatever, and you lock it in, but then the construction is going to start after that. It's going to be 4 or 5, 6 months, possibly before you get there. And then the second buyer, of course, is going in, hopefully with a realtor on that first visit and all that stuff, but going in and going to buy an inventory home, a home that's either already completed and is ready to move in, or is in the process of being constructed. It's a production home, and you're going to do that. There's probably less variability on the production home side or the ready to move in type models because the house has already been built. The builder knows what the costs are. The only thing driving that price really is the market and the demand. So if you've got 80, as Colleen said earlier, out in California, you got 80 offers on a house. Now you're into economics and just what that price is going to pull from that competition. On the semi-custom or custom side, where you're doing that, the most important part would be able to lock in the price, whether you're doing it as a construction loan through, I don't know if Key Bank offers construction loan financing. One of our other members, Key Bank used to be a member, but Lake Michigan Credit Union is one that offers construction loan financing, as an HBA member. And so, being able to lock in that price, that's where you got to look at that. But a lot of builders are now including escalator clauses so that, they may believe that the lumber package is going to cost, $50,000 right now, but if it escalates by another 10,000, they're going to pass that price along. So how you negotiate that contract is going to be the most important part of protecting yourself against that. But again, the builders also can't afford, to just eat those costs either. So it's, there's a give and take there on how that works. Good question.
Thank you, Michael. We have time for one more question. As a realtor, what is the best way for me to introduce a buyer to a builder and still get paid?
Right. That's the whole key, right? So, obviously, and I've been through this on the, home buyer side, and used realtors, every time. Well, I guess on the new home that I bought, I didn't do that, but we built a custom home. But in the situations where I have used a realtor, obviously, in my opinion, one, it's important for the realtor to coach the client, that if you're, and I know you all do this, but if you see a new home, you want to stop in, we need to make sure that's coordinated so that, number one, I'm the realtor of record as part of that interaction. Preferably you'd be with them when that occurs. I guess number two is, I would encourage, and I think Bob would encourage this as well, though now I'm speaking for Bob, but I would encourage that you develop relationships with builders that are active in the markets that you serve. You can find them by driving around. You can find them. We have a lot of realtors that have joined the Home Builders Association. It's not a membership pitch, but that is one of the values, one of the reports that we provide at one level of membership. You can easily find out who's building in these areas at what price points, so that you can develop those relationships with them. Because if you can bring a symbiotic relationship that brings them 5 customers, that may or may not have come to them otherwise, if they wouldn't have come to them otherwise, that's found business, right? So a lot of builders, especially since the downturn, no longer have their sales staff. The larger ones do, Pulte, Lombardo, others, but the smaller ones, and there's quite a few of them that are building anywhere between 10 and 25 homes a year, don't have those sales staff. So realtors turn out to be their best lead source in bringing that business in. So again, it's all about relationships, right? So that's how I'd answer that one.
Thank you, Michael. And you spoke perfectly for me on that issue. So thank you for sharing that. I know you're busy, but I also understand you're going to be sticking around after the meeting. If you have additional questions, those who are here are welcome to stick around as well, and perhaps can get an answer to their question. When you get off this, if you'd please say hello to Forrest, I would appreciate it. Now, let's please pay attention to this message from Hill Mortgage.
Some companies love to tout their low prices as a sign that they're the best in the business. But when you take a closer look, added fees, long delays, and other problems can end up costing you a lot more. The same is true for your mortgage. We shop hundreds of options to match you with just the right one. And we get you to the closing table in 20 days or less. So the next time you're tempted to go with one of the cut rate options, let us put you at ease. Call today.
Good morning, Grosse Pointe Board of Realtor members. I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you to the board for allowing us to be one of your sponsors today. I'm Laura Peters, loan originator and operations manager over here at Hill Mortgage. And with me today, I have our president and CEO, Jason Coletta. As a local and homegrown mortgage broker, we are here to serve you. We are located here on the Hill in Grosse Pointe Farms at 81 Kirchable, Suite 300. We are a personal shopper for your clients to go out and take a look and make sure that across the board, we have the best rates and the best programs for your clients, all while keeping you informed along the entire process. We also, our current clear to close times are 17 days.
Again, thank you for the time. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can always reach out to us on our website or the phone number 313-636-3700. We would love to set up a time for a virtual meeting or an in-person cup of coffee to discuss how we can get your clients to the closing table in less than 20 days. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Laura and Jason, and to Hill Mortgage for that message. We are getting to the end of our meeting today, but before we conclude, remember, there is networking after we close the official portion of the meeting until 10:30. At this time, our president-elect, Chris Van Bell, will be making some announcements.
Well, thanks, Bob. Hello, and thank you, everyone, for showing up today and enjoying all this great information. I'd like to thank our presenters and sponsors as well. You guys are absolutely awesome. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today. Before we find out who our lucky drawing winners are, I'd like to share a few of the upcoming classes and events. Our Macomb chapter will be hosting a virtual pop-in mixer tomorrow morning via Zoom. You can find the meeting link on the board website. All are welcome to join, regardless of chapter affiliation, and we always have a good time at these morning pop-ins. Our next virtual roundtable is here Friday at noon. This is a great opportunity to join in discussion with fellow members about hot topics in our industry. I know last month we had an absolutely awesome roundtable. I think a few of us showed up and we started just talking about the market and things we're experiencing personally in the business. Saturday evening, a Heartbreakers Comedy Night is going to take place, benefiting the Macomb Habitat for Humanity Women's Build. There are options to attend this virtually or in person while tickets last. If you have not yet taken the At-Home with Diversity certification course, or even if you have and want to take a refresher, sign up in advance for the February 18th class taught by our very own Anne-Marie DeRozier. She is super awesome. That's who I took the At-Home with Diversity class with myself. You know, what a great designation and a whole lot of wonderful information. Back out by popular demand, we have our friend Eric Dusenberry with the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, also known as MISHDA, coming up February 24th. There's no cost to attend and registration is still open. Again, awesome information. I just found out in Lapeer that a lot of people where I live don't know much about MISHDA, so we're trying to get the word out there, as well as still doing it in Macomb, where I also work full time. The schedule for the following month, Macomb chapter pop-in, put this on the calendar, will be March 11th. Our virtual roundtable is going to be March 12th. Our financial planning survival to success class is March 15th. We're going to navigate electronic lockboxes for the non-real comp users on March 24th, and there will also be a real comp user class sometime in April. And then a seminar on social media best practices during changing times, taught by our friends at Elevate on March 29th. That's it for February and March. You can find more information about all these upcoming activities at the board website, www.gpbr.com. Again, thanks for being with us here today. We appreciate everybody for coming out. Now is a great time to give out some prizes. So back to you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Chris. Before we get to the drawings, however, I skipped a spot on my presentation, and that was that although it's only February, we are in the. I'm sorry, Amy. We are in the process of talking about committees for 2022, and while you will learn more about becoming a member of a committee in our volunteer family or a member of the extended leadership family in the future, please take time to look at the information about our committees at the board website. And if you see one that interests you, there is a form you can complete. If you fill it out, you will be contacted by a member of the management team. And now at this point, let's get to those drawings. Again, I apologize for going out of order. Julie, Julie's ready. Julie, looks like you're ready. Let's do the first drawing, a $75 gift card courtesy of KeyBank. The winner is Lisa Adams. Congratulations, Lisa. Next is a $25 gift card courtesy of Hill Mortgage. And that winner is Matt Beard. Congratulations, Matt. Thanks everyone for coming, and stay healthy and safe. For those who would like to stick around for some networking, we will be open until 10:30. That's it.